think it comes back to, I mentioned that, yeah, my strength is just problem solving. So this to me was just like one big problem. And I just had a spreadsheet of problems, like, or things I had to answer. And I would just go through it on a daily basis. My very first one, this is ridiculous because I almost failed chemistry in high school, was who will make this? Like, who is this chemist? Is it like, we've got pharmacist, chemist, is it them? I'm like, I knew about compound chemists, but I just didn't know who they were. So I remember thankfully I have a big network, and I had a mate who is like an anaesthetist, but he was dating a compound pharmacist. So I just called him, right? So I just tapped my network. I'm like, who might be able to answer this? I'm just going to call and ask really stupid questions. And so I asked him if I could speak to his then girlfriend. And she was great, right? She's like, I'm not the right person, but you need to speak to a formulation chemist. I'm like, oh, okay, great, formulation chemist. Now I know where to go.
Googling formulation chemist.
Totally. And then she was like, make sure there's the manufacturing process exists for what you're going to create. I'm like, okay, make sure I have that. So each person that I spoke to would just give me tips, and I'd just keep a record of the conversation. And then I would ask them, who are 2 more people you can connect me with? And then I would literally turn up at startup events and just, unlike other people who will keep their ideas secret, I'm like, I'm not keeping this a secret, mainly so that I would remain accountable for doing this, right? Because I knew if I had this external pressure, I'd promise people I was going to do it. So if I told the world I'm going to do it, I have to do it. So I would literally turn up to events and say, I'm going to create Australia's first just add water cleaning product to eradicate plastics and toxins. Can you help me? These are the things that I'm trying to solve for. And I knew their area of expertise, right? So if it was operational, I'd ask them. And so that's literally how I found a guy who worked in plastics extrusion. So even though extrusions is a manufacturing methodology, and so he was able to give manufacturing advice, and in the end was like, well, this doesn't exist. I know how to do extrusion. So he came to me with a proposal to do that. The 2 other people who had helped, they worked for another cleaning manufacturer. And so they had expertise around not problem solving, but also the cleaning industry. And they connected me with the chemist. So it was quite a small world on the Sunshine Coast, but it was just being brave to say, I'm doing this, like, help me. Who do I speak to? And really connecting them with the mission. I'd walk into meetings and do a little pitch about the problem that I'm trying to solve and how I need people to help. And that was really instrumental. Like, people understanding the why got them really engaged in the process, anywhere from my founding team to suppliers, manufacturers, and often at great risk to them. So the manufacturer, they built all of the machinery and everything themselves. Wow. They did all of the testing and stuff to make sure they could work it out themselves, and took great risk, right? I was their very first customer, so us succeeding impacted their success. Bottle brokers who helped us to get our really beautiful glass and silicone bottles supported us with really incredible terms, like terms people often haven't heard of. And same with our branding agency, took great risk because they really believed in what we were doing.
Oh my God, it's incredible. And I love you, when you were telling that story, you talked about telling everyone what you were doing. And it's so funny. I know from attending many startup events, and people keep their cards close to their chest because they think everyone's going to steal their idea. And I'm like, people don't steal people's ideas because it is so hard to execute ideas. And it always surprises me in a good way that people are so keen to support you and your mission, right? Like, people recognize that you are the one executing, you are the one doing the hard work. So they're so keen to help. It's just the best lesson to share your vision and ask for help. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. And you're almost manifesting it and holding yourself to account. And honestly, like, if someone was able to go and do this themselves, good luck to them, because it is so hard. It is way harder than I ever thought it was going to be, still to this day. right? Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing as well, especially about a new category or a new way of doing things, competition means there are other people out there educating the market as well. So that opens up like the door to more of a mass consumerism of your product. So it's, again, not a bad thing.
Yeah, totally. And to be honest, I knew this was going to come into the Australian market very quickly. Like, it was a total no-brainer why, you know, cleaning products are 95% plus water. We're transporting around something that you can get from your tap at home. So that's just really inefficient. What I did know, observing the competition overseas, is that they were pursuing a really high volume, low price strategy. And so our strategy, you know, and I think this is really important, but be strategic in your positioning, because I knew that it was likely that they may enter the Australian market or others were going to pop up. The easiest thing to do in this space is, if others want to go for it. You can find these products online on Alibaba. You can import them really cheap. You can package them up in nasty packaging, nasty ingredients, create a brand and just flog it for a really cheap price. But that doesn't align with our ethics. We needed to make something that was much safer. That comes at a price. So our positioning was really to be a niche, differentiated player that added a lot of value and provided a really quality product. And that has been really instrumental in protecting our positioning and ensuring that we remain relevant amongst the competitors.
I think it's such an important point, because I think sometimes people think competing on price is easy. And so they discount, they're cheap, they cut corners, and it actually becomes really hard because you are competing with so many people. And then it just becomes this race to the bottom. You know, competing on brand and competing on value and ethics is hard as well. But it's so much more sustainable, I think, and you just get such a loyal following. No one is loyal at the bottom. You know, when you do compete on value and ethics, people are so loyal to your brand.
Yeah, and we've had to stick really firm to that, right? And as you said, in our view, we're building a brand. We're building a community that really believes in what we're doing, not just as a product, but also our bigger purpose. We have done lots of research, lots of surveys, lots of analysis using pricing models. We know that our product is priced really reasonably for the customers that are really interested in our product and purpose-led businesses. But what was interesting, as we started to have retail conversations, we started to get a lot of pressure on that price, not only for our bottles, but also our bars, because you're now in a category where they're looking at the competitors that are doing really cheap refills and really cheap plastic bottles, and that's effectively set a precedent. And so that became a bit of a frustration, and we started to look at, okay, do we need to compromise on ingredients? Do we need to put pressure on our suppliers to do it cheaper? And so you start to think about all these ways you can cut corners. Thankfully, because ethics is really embedded and we're really clear on what we're doing here, we pushed back on that and just decided, all right, well, we need to go and test this and find retail partners that are willing to test it with us. And so our approach is, going to independents who really support local, support high quality, locally sourced products, and are willing to test that we can maintain that price, has been really important. So I think there's some stuff that go around on Instagram around that, right? Like if you're told that you're not worth it or that product's not worth it, you're just in the wrong room. And that's really important to remember, and important for us to maintain our values and our brand as we move forward.